Yo, check 1 2. Can people hear me in the chat? Can you give me a signal that you can hear me? Let me know if folks can hear me. I think I got a little bit of latency, just saying. Okay, cool. All right, it works. All right, cool. All right, welcome everyone. So I wanted to come over here because there's this graphic that can really kind of big picture explain what Webaverse MMO is. And I might not see your messages. I think like 30 seconds of latency, which kind of sucks. So maybe that's my end. I'm gonna refresh. All right. I see a little bit better. Okay, so I'll just keep going. What is Webaverse MMO? Well, first off, who am I? For uninitiated folks, you can see the body of my work on this link, which I'll drop into the chat. And I do a lot of open source research on a lot of different platforms, looking for how to build the in-between, the standards, the protocols, the incentives to connect the open metaverse together. And that's kind of how I think about Webaverse. You know, like if you break down the words, web of verse, you know, like you want to have a bunch of verses like a web, you know, kind of like the next generation of the internet, right? Not maybe like one to rule all, but you know, we have multiple browsers, we have many different types of websites, and I want people to be free to choose their stack, but it to be all kind of connected based on interoperable open standards and formats and all that good stuff. So you can check out some of my work. I do a lot of avatar stuff every Tuesday. I run kind of like a virtual hackerspace with events every week, which in fact I've got like right here in this booth next to me. It has like the calendar of events that we do every week. Monday's virtual production, Tuesday's Avatar Interop, and Wednesday today is hanging out at the Open Metaverse Interop group. I spent a lot of time in these Interop groups, but I want to talk to y'all about a DAO to kind of really supercharge and close some fun value loops for the community to get involved with a common thing that a lot of projects, especially open source projects, there's a real need for, which is documentation and testing and creating content. So the community can do all of that together. But what if we made it into a fun game? What if we turn, not just like build a game and then release it, but what if we turn the journey of making a game into a game itself? And that's kind of the concept of Webaverse MMO. And I've got some notes over here. I'm still working on this, but the overall onboarding flow is going to go, you join Discord, you react for a role which is based on skills, like, are you an artist, are you a programmer, are you a dev? And then you could then get quests that are pertaining to those skills. So it's kind of like choosing a MMO class, and then you could go to that MMO quest giver and get a quest from them, and you can get some cool swag along the way. So we made 3D these pins because I want people to wear and kind of have a walking canvas to show off Interop with. So here's a backpack to kind of show off, as a metaphor for metaverse Interop. Bring your digital assets between platforms. Boom, backpack. A lot of people will understand that. Is my mic quiet, really? Let me see. No, I think it's good. Fungible said loud and clear, so I trust him. So yeah, you choose your class, and then you can get some cool swag like a pin, and then you start to complete quests to rack up XP, which comes in a form as tokens that could actually be worth something. So it's not just searching around for these items in a kind of meaningless quest, but you're actually completing GitHub issues, and this is all kind of facilitated through dwork. So I've got dwork set up here, and it's still kind of populating with issues, but to kind of show y'all the various things that we have bounties for at the moment, let me just go into overview mode. So you can kind of see all the different open tasks. You could join here, and I'll drop this into the chat as well. There's kind of a hard cost for completing various things, like 100 USDC for adding a README to a project, because one of the things that any kind of open source project needs is a README. Okay, I think we're good. People hear me. I think it's good. Yeah, maybe my mic is quiet, but it's all good. Right? Let me see. I think I'm good. Anyways. So one of the other reasons Webaverse MMO is really cool is that Webaverse has all these different templates for new types of NFTs. You've got weapons and vehicles and pets, and as someone who's really deep into Avatar Interop, all of this is basically Avatar Interop. If you think about it, you're equipping a weapon, you're equipping your pet to follow you around, you're equipping that vehicle as part of your avatar to move around. So it's a fun way of doing Avatar Interop and to promote it as we traverse worlds. So when we create a README for this bow to explain what the hell this repo is, then also it's great for metaverse interop groups such as, let me go back to this conference and show you the bigger picture value add here. Look at all these logos. You see like W3C, Spatial Web Foundation, OMI Group, Chronos, Metaverse Standards Forum, VRM Consortium. These Metaverse Standards groups really benefit from having case studies and examples of people who are creating platform agnostic content. So as we create like READMEs for these projects, it becomes easier for people who look at these case studies to work on, things such as GLTF extensions and guidance and implementation details for developers to integrate, and which creates better incentives for creators to create more fun, interesting objects. It advances everything as a whole, and helps really glue the metaverse together. So the main quest right now is, creating READMEs, but look, that hard 100 USDC is just like the tip of the iceberg. I think what's really happening is we're creating like this proof of human work ledger, because with DWork, all of your contributions are recorded. So you kind of build up a portfolio, kind of like how in an MMO, you're racking up XP, you're racking up all these contributions. And as we quest, we have a leaderboard, and on this leaderboard we can do a regular airdrop, and that can be in a form of tokens, or it can be also like really cool NFTs, such as whoever's like number one on the leaderboard in 30 days, maybe they get like a cool sword or something. So that's something I really want to explore, and I think this is how we can really open up open source projects to the community to not only help co-create, which we've seen a lot of examples with, like if I go over here, I just want to kind of bring up one example with Webaverse art. If you can recall, Webaverse had all these cool, it just kind of really happened organically. Like at first this image was posted, and then someone probably like yoinked it and then added themselves in, and I remember this was the first time I saw Feta, and then eventually it just kind of grew organically. And I find that really inspiring, and I think that we need to build the open metaverse in such a way, like all of us, creating content, writing blogs and documentation, and that is kind of like how it's emerging. But a lot of open source projects, this isn't really approachable for most people, especially artists like GitHub. DWork is really good for closing that gap, but also the incentives. Like if you just do this pull request and submit a README, cool, like that's wonderful, but I think that would be way more, healthier for the entire ecosystem. Like one of the reasons I joined this space was because Bitcoin kind of showed that there is a way that we could pretty much kind of make open source more sustainably. And I really want to figure out how we can close the value loops for contributors to, get something for their contributions, proof of, human work, and for everybody who benefits to, just like, for all of this kind of stuff to more organically emerge from the bottom up. So it's really about the journey, and I, as someone who's been making virtual worlds for now a decade, I mean, I still play a lot of games, but making stuff has become a lot of fun. And I think for a lot of people, like the 1% of people who make stuff, there's also like a squad around them that can help, with QA testing and making content and writing and documenting. And so this is a way we can progressively decentralize, starting with Webaverse, but I see this as a template that can apply to any project to progressively decentralize. if we are able to pull this off. And part of being in a DAO is that it's kind of like Kaizen, continual improvement. And that's one of the reasons I joined MetaFactory back when it launched. It's been like over 3 years now or something, close to, because it feels like you're going to the gym for coordination. And when it comes to coordinating, a lot of people use like GitHub and whatnot, but man, dwork is really good. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to turn this whole thing into like a dwork shill fest. Oh, I'll try not to, but if you're to go into any of these tasks, not only is it synced with GitHub, so every issue has a GitHub issue in here, one-to-one synced, but it's also every issue you can discuss in a Discord thread. And we could also distribute multiple types of bounties. So, just like how you go up to an NPC in a video game and you get a quest from them, and then you come back and you get your reward after you complete the quest. That's kind of what I want to design here. And you have a lot of power to essentially not only just like, do regular ERC20 tokens, but check this out. You could go to any of these networks and you can add your own token. So it can be an ERC20, 721, or 1155. And I just think this would be so cool if, you finally complete a hard task and then you get something to kind of prove it. So like this is a whole different way of claiming NFTs, where it's a different value system, where you have to earn stuff, just like in a video game. But in this video game, GitHub and dwork are our backend. And we could create a 3D front end, which is what I eventually envision with these virtual worlds. And you can kind of see like so like I've got some ideas with fashion. So like as you're accumulating points, we could add patches and stickers to our wearables and our avatars. So you can walk around and it's like, you can show, and kind of your fashion becomes like a canvas of stories and contributions across the metaverse, because avatars are the most portable thing, and we could spread the memes throughout these platforms with our avatars. And I've been looking at ways that we could also create like the NPCs that give you quests, some generic, like the items that can describe the roles like that you pick up when you join the Discord, or like when an issue is tagged. So going back to that, you can tag all these issues with different skills, and those go into your profile as well in terms of contributions. So we just basically took all of these skills and we made 3D pins of all of them. So planning on making that an open edition, free to mint, gas only kind of thing, so you can have wearables for your wearables and whatnot. But also, wouldn't it be cool if like you completed like a marketer task, and then at like a certain level of points that you get, or silk, you get like a megaphone that can make your voice louder in worlds, or for a scientist, for someone who does like product research and development, when they contribute X amount of tasks, they can get a lab coat. Or someone who's good at translating can eventually get like, kind of based on Babelfish, maybe they get a flying fish pet that follows them. So I'm thinking about, when it comes to gamifying open source, what are the rewards that you can get in terms of like NFTs that would be really cool to collect. So yeah, that's the gist of it. We're questing, we're open sourcing, and we're documenting. And documentation is so important, when it comes to coordinating, especially in a DAO. You have to know how to write proposals, how to communicate. Basically, there's so many skills that benefit from being an open source contributor when it comes to DAOs. And so why not do both at the same time? And Webaverse is perfect for this because everything is open source, that we could really kind of walk the walk when it comes to building an open metaverse, all of us, and getting cool swag and tokens along the way, and that eventually accumulates into something that can be more quantified, when it comes to your profiles. And I think that's perfect analogy for Silk. We want to like when it comes to tokenomics, you don't have to complicate it. Tokenomics can be basically broken down into reward the behavior that you wish to see more of. So if you want to see people contribute, reward contributors. And dwork and GitHub are kind of the back-end systems that we're using to do that. But my dream is that we could also have like this really cool front end. So I've got like this street in Hyperfy, Webaverse, VRChat, and Neos. It's everywhere because it kind of goes back to the whole street concept and the Silk Road. And I can imagine that you walk up to like an NPC and they give you a quest from dwork or GitHub, and then they can reward you with items. So like here's like that street, and we've got the Webaverse billboard over there. But yeah, if you can imagine, there would be like a NPC just standing there that's like that you walk up to, and they give you a quest. If you're like a beginner, maybe they give you something that's easy, and then you go back and they give you some tokens and eventually items. I think that would be so cool. Then we can really build an open source game about building games. It's the meta game. And that's basically the gist of it. I've went through a lot of stuff, and it's only been 20 minutes. So we're going to add a bunch of new bounties for character creator, because we want people to start to mod this, so like Webaverse built the tools for others to build tools with. So I want it to be easy for an artist who wants to make like some kind of avatar customizer to be able to add their own wearables to it. And so that's going to be the next thing that we're adding to the bounty board. And also on the topic of bounties and bounty boards, for fans of Cowboy Bebop, we have some plans in the M3 virtual production group to basically kind of like make a sort of a video to kind of go over like what kind of bounties are available, and especially if there's any juicy ones out there. So look out for that later. Are you guys planning to test it first in a web version or go straight for the MMO, asking for the reward system? So it's kind of, it's going to be emergent, and we're starting out with some very basic tasks, such as like, these things, create a README and set up a test world, and, file any issues for any bugs that you notice and whatnot. So just very kind of like, and you see this all the time, but a lot of the time people will report bugs in Discord, and then devs are, will basically have to summarize and copy and paste and, those notes from one channel to the next, because I guess a lot of users, maybe the GitHub isn't accessible, or they don't know how to file an issue. But yeah, we're just going to do a lot of QA and documenting for all these different types of NFTs. And then after that, there's some chunky bounties out there. Like there is one for adding a VR implementation, and another one for adding multiplayer to the latest Webaverse repo, which is over here. So we're kind of slowly opening this up, but I want to make sure that there's plenty of beginner quests out there. And, because the goal is to build this all together. And eventually, like, we got to document how we're doing this so that, it's not just Webverse, but more projects can be incentivized to open source and onboard their community to become co-creators and all of it, And I think this is going to kind of change the tides from the way a lot of tokenomics works at the moment, which kind of rewards the traders more so than anything. You will basically have platforms kind of aggregate data based on transactions and sales and all these financial types of things. But what about like airdrops for the makers? What about airdrops for the artists? And we've seen some of that, like Wearable and Super Rare have done stuff. Like if you're an artist and you've minted or sold things, you get something. But what about open source projects or games or any of that? So I hope that we can become a case study for how we can reshape tokenomics from more how heavily financial it a disconnect. Okay, I think I'm back. We back. All right. So yeah. And really what I need to do now, I guess, is fix the onboarding for the Discord. So that, when you join, you can pick your role and then you get quests for that role. And I really want to collab with somebody who is like got experience or, loves ChatGPT to help kind of design this onboarding system in a more like epic way. So like going back to here for a second, when you join the Discord, like you pick your role and all that right here, the featured roles, that's something that I think is super underrated. And this is something that I just made this as a test thing, so I could just, we can change it to whatever. But if I were to add, do something like artist, where's artist? Writer, we'll do writer. So writer has relevant skills in writing. And then, I want to fill out basically like class descriptions. So it's kind of like you're picking your class in an MMO. And I need help sometimes. Like I get writer's block on filling out some of these descriptions and whatnot. But and then afterwards, like beginner evergreen quest. Like if you were to have like a writer, let me just go back to that and show you the workflow. So we'll do writer, writing. Writers are good with words, proficient at language, and they write blog posts, guides, readmes, and tutorials. Compensation, it could be, whatever, but I'll just put this here for now. And now, writer tasks. So this is something that I could also use help with, like in terms of evergreen tasks for these different classes. So for the writer class, maybe we'll do like Twitter thread on Webaverse. I don't know, just like something. I'll do like a very tiny thing just to make it worth someone's time. And then you write out the what the quest is and all that kind of stuff, and then you create it. But one other thing here is like you could have it so that it's multiple submissions. And then you could have like X amount per cycle or whatnot. And then people can rack up XP through that one. But now check this out. So it's like blog post, write a tutorial on writing good on QA testing. So do another kind of thing, but this time you can kind of up it to be like, I don't know, like 60. And then it has writing skills, but the direct claiming, maybe there's like a class above writer. Maybe there's something like author or something. So like in some video games, as you kind of gain levels, it's like Pokemon, you can evolve. And so with this, we can go from writer to whatever comes right after writer, which could be like something else, author or something. And then that quest becomes only like accessible to people who have that role. And so maybe then in order to get that role, you have to do a series of quests, or you have to get this item, etc. But it can all like already chain together in such a way that it is kind of like a video game. We just kind of have to literally write out this back end, and I've got a ton of experience in like game design and whatnot, and some of my like favorite games. Let me see if I could bring something up. Go into all right. So got this, the M3 onboarding, but then over here, this image is from Ragnarok Online. So in Ragnarok, you would start out as a novice, and then you would pick kind of like a class, swordman, magician, thief, and then you could like evolve into these other subclasses. And this is kind of how I'm thinking, like you start out with a reaction role, but then each of those roles also has like the next level up. Magician can become a wizard or a sage, and then high wizard or a professor, and each of them have different skill trees and skill sets. And I'm kind of seeing it from like in communities, you have the pioneers and settlers and town planners, and they all kind of deal with different things and have different motivations and incentive mechanisms. So we could use some knowledge from here on how we could like design some of these systems. So I was kind of thinking, operations can become admins, and research and design, you could go from devs to product, and for the writers and translators, you could go from community to marketing. So kind of more formal roles. So here is kind of like, the class system for this MMO. And then, each of them would have their own cool swag and NFTs and whatnot. How would you imagine a quality review? Yeah, so every task you could have a reviewer. So it always has to go through somebody to review. And you can even add multiple reviewers, but it kind of almost works like a multi-sig, where if there is multiple reviewers, you would need the confirmation of both for a task to progress to the next status. So in this way, we could better avoid people who are farming and whatnot. And we also can, by having meetups in virtual worlds, we can improve our Cybele resistance. It's really hard for bots to mimic that. And if you're in Webaverse MMO, you literally have to be able to launch a virtual world. Like, if you can't even WASD, then I don't even know. Maybe it's not the right MMO. But yeah, so we want to build Cybele resistance as we go along, and trust and contributions earn more trust. Any other questions so far as to this overall concept? I've set up a bunch of DWorks for a bunch of different orgs, and yeah, I think DWork is really one of the best tools to have come out for Web3. It integrates so nicely with Discord and GitHub, and so like, I kind of mentioned the Cowboy Bebop virtual production. There's also something in DWork where if you go to Discord integration, you could have a status board with all open tasks. So every now and then it would basically collect like a literal bounty board in an embed that you can see everything that pertains to that space, which is super convenient, but also just really cool. I also want to like take these and export them in such a way that we could visualize it in a 3D world, but that's extra fancy. Next steps is getting all the tasks from Character Creator in here, because this just launched. A lot of people are interested in it, but documentation is a bit sparse. And if you're an artist that wants to add wearables to Character Creator, like, first off, that's revolutionary. You can't just like do that in Ready Player Me. You would have to become a partner, and it's a permission system that they've got going on. Whereas over here, I could just like fork Character Creator and start to like build my own. But it would be kind of difficult, because you would have to kind of basically go about figuring out the system yourself, whereas we could really benefit with a guide. And I've got an issue here, and I believe that we're working on getting that all into DWork right now. Where's my GitHub? Improve documentation. Oh, here it is. So I wrote this, basically, how can artists like upload their own base meshes and wearables for avatars, and creating templates, in Blender or Unity. So you basically could just download one of those templates, design a wearable, and then submit something like that to be part of it. So in our efforts to open up these projects more to the community, we can now attach some bounties to things like that and earn some tokens and gain XP. And every cycle will also figure out a way to reward the contributors. So it's not just like a transactional relationship. You're building up an on-chain portfolio and farming contributions that you could use for future airdrops or claims of quest items. Let's see, is there anything else in the chat? I'm really stoked about the NPC system. Like, it almost feels like we could have NPCs trained on all the documentation, like helping you. So it's not just like a quest that we're doing like ourselves, but you could, walk up to an NPC that is like maybe a programmer NPC for a programming task, and it's trained on all of the code. So you can ask it questions and it can help you out. Or an artist like AI could help you with artist related tasks. Maybe it can do image generation, kind of like how I believe in Character Creator it has that. So we'll have AIs in the party as well. Just put in a pull request starting point and use jet. Do we want to try? All right. Let's see. Pickaxe. Hey, can you explain what this code does? With comments, with a summary and comments in between the lines. All right, so I grabbed some code of this pickaxe, that's missing a README, and there are some comments, and this is all like commented out, but just putting things through ChatGPT isn't always going to yield the best results, but it does kind of give you some interesting context. So like the commented out part right over here mentions part of the animation loop that updates the material and rotation. Oh, it's a GLTF model. That's all cool. Okay, cool. What people don't know is that when you download this repo and then you want to like test it, you can literally like download and drag and drop the folder into Webaverse. So that's something that needs to be explained in the README. And just in general, like one good open issue could be like wait, I think I have that. It's a quick start guide. I think this might be a writing kind of thing, but we can do like write a tutorial on what's this? I'll just do that for now, but we'll do like video how to test a repo. So in this one, it's like download the repo or get Webaverse monorepo running locally. Downloading the repo, drag and drop the folder using console debug tools. And then, this would be probably a sort of a design goal because you're creating a video out of it. I'll do 50. Bam. And check this out. When I create that on dwork, it creates that issue on GitHub. So it's this cool like bi-directional sync that you can have in between dwork and GitHub, and then I could discuss it in here, and also it will tag me if I assign myself in Discord. I believe this is a link to which Discord is this linked to? I think M3. Let me see if this has all the tasks now for character creator. Oh, it's over here. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we just got all the tasks from character creator imported into here. I guess that kind of makes this one redundant. I think we'll, can I move this? Can I move this over here? No? Okay. Just call this meta loot then. All right, so meet improved documentation. Let's kind of link some stuff. It's not perfect because you know, some of these things that are referencing GitHub issues on GitHub, you could like jump right to there, but we don't have that. At least it's all kind of linked together where you could see what's going on. Make the UX more obvious. Okay. So we don't have to basically add a bounty up front to everything if it's kind of a task that's hard to quantify. Like, let's say that, you know, this task is kind of like, you know, between easy and difficult, don't really know how to value it. So one thing that you could do is, let's just say like scale voiceover. You could do a open to bids bounty, and then somebody could essentially apply, but also say how much that they're willing to work for it per hour or like lump sum. And so it could be somebody naming their price for a bounty, which alleviates a lot of the upfront kind of like thinking and how to quantify some of these tasks. Later, Fungi. It does seem kind of like Jira, but the interface kind of reminds me more of Discord. But yeah, overall, this is kind of what we're working on. And there's so many different parts, you know, like it's not just like working on the Webaverse parts. I really want to work on the reward systems too. So the badges could use some design help with maybe some of the NPCs. So if you like to model characters and avatars or wearables, then that could be a task as well. And DAOs, and one of the reasons why I really like this one piece of art, it's called DAO Town, is that working inside of a DAO requires like a lot of grit and sort of a self-starter attitude. It's not a sort of a structure where you're always told what to do. You just kind of got to do things, you know? So it's really helpful to know like how to work in an open source way where if you notice an issue, don't just like mention it in passing, but go ahead and file it somewhere, you know, on dwork or GitHub or something. Or if yeah, you just kind of have to have some grit being on the fringes of cyberspace out here. And there's so much that we can learn, because I think really to build the open metaverse, it requires a ton of coordination. And by doing this, we are exercising those coordination muscles. DAOs are basically like a gym for us. And the real activity, you know, these are all weights, but we're getting gains through the means of accomplishing these tasks, of getting exposed to these new tools and learning how to work together in an online decentralized way, and how to reward and contributors as well. So this is Meta Factory right in the center right over here, and I'm trying to transfer a lot of the knowledge that I've gained from contributing to DAOs over the years towards the wider metaverse community, which I see a lot of coordination challenges and we need to scale. And this is the mechanism or vehicle of which we can do it. So hopefully I'll see y'all in Discord sometime, and we could start to crush some of these bounties, or just like, for next week we'll do a virtual production on a sort of Cowboy Bebop-esque bounty board update template. Possibly could even automate some parts of that, because there's a way to aggregate all the open tasks, and with AI's help we could probably create an AI bounty hunter announcer type of thing. That would be pretty cool. But I also just feel the need to get some of these done so that we have a really good reference to use for others to be like, if something is missing a README, I could just point to one that's complete and be like, we want something to look that good. And that would really help for coordination. There are some examples in the other Webaverse repos, but I only forked everything that is missing documentation, so that's what we're working with right now. Anyhow, there's a treasury, so it'll be worth your time. And knowledge and experience is up only, So if you really want to learn a lot of stuff about Web3, DAOs, NFTs, crypto, metaverse making, 3D modeling, all this kind of everything, then that is up only, and it's going to stick with you. It's going to transcend platforms. And then we can truly create a Silk Road in which it's not just, purely economic. There's real work involved. There's people who are creating content, writing blogs, and tutorials and assets and scripting and content creation, that the value is traveling in a more organic way between these platforms. And that's how I think we're going to be able to better connect these worlds. And also for eventually Silk, it was inspired a lot by how difficult it was to produce silk in the ancient days, and still today. To produce high quality silk, you need to plant mulberries, you need to raise silkworms, you need to unreel silk and make threads and design and weave fabric and dye and embroider stuff. But if, let's say, your token mechanism is like how long you can hold a thing in your wallet, and that's how people get rewarded, then all of the work is going to be on just like the dev team, and that's pretty centralized. I just think that we could do better in terms of tokenomics than hold this, and get rewarded. It's kind of lazy, I think. It's cool, there's a lot of good reason for staking, and that's part of it, but there's so much room to explore different mechanisms, especially when it comes to contributors. And there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom within DAO communities that contributing to a DAO brings us closer to those thought leaders, and the tools and resources and knowledge that they're sharing is going to really help. Kind of like if you can imagine a Venn diagram of people who are in metaverse communities and people who are in DAOs. This is where we want to be, right in the middle. And right now it's kind of like we're kind of at the edges separate, but we're inching closer. So we've got W and D A O. Y'all get it. Any more questions? Final questions? We got about 8 minutes till we're at the hour, and then I have to hop into some other DAO stuff. TLDR, use dwork more. Dwork is amazing, and we can get a lot of ideas by looking at other DAOs. Like, if you are interested in learning about anything related to DAOs and how to contribute better, I would say check out some of these other things. You can see all the open issues across all these other DAOs, which also means that our issues, whenever we make something, basically gets broadcasted to everyone else. So that's also pretty cool. But it kind of reminds me of a coral reef, you know, where it's this ecosystem, and by putting ourselves within that just ecosystem thriving with life, and people who are contributing real value, and organizations that are finding better ways to coordinate together online in an open and decentralized way, then we can obtain the knowledge and wisdom and skills to truly build the best version of the open metaverse together. And I think that's how we get a greater sense of ownership of something, by helping create it. So yeah, this is, I think, oh cool, Bankless DAO. Bankless is, and by the way, my avatar is wearing Metafactory gear, so I got like a Metafactory hat and Bankless hoodie from Metafactory. We have most of all the wearables done for avatars from our shop. And check this out, it's like we're neighbors right in the center over there. So Bankless DAO is already kind of like scaling out, and oh, that's cool. Talking DAO governance with ChatGPT. This task is reserved for members with the role marketing department. So first, I would need to get the marketing department role. Okay, what do I need to do? Note-taking, weekly calls. 500 bank. See, you can get ideas for how to like improve your own organization by checking out some of the open bounties and tasks and others. And that's the beauty of open source, you know? It's like a rising tide that lifts all ships. So I think it would be really great for there to be an evergreen bounty for somebody to take notes during meetings. And then also like putting that through ChatGPT to summarize those notes or something like that. Campaigns and projects. Let's check this out. Graphics for Twitter thread. Very cool. I'm guessing bank is like their governance token. So the more you contribute, the more of a voice that you have. That's a true meritocracy right there. All right. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. Any other final questions in the chat? Let me know them. We got about a few minutes left. I hope people make a booth. We're working on a virtual conference and we need some booths. We did a bounty for people to make booth templates, and since then people have been making some awesome booths. And I've been uploading them to Sketchfab. So we could have a big old Metaverse Conference Expo. Check out this one. This one's the one I made of Metafactory. It was me and Sevener Roy collabing on this one. Got some of the wearables over here. It's just a GLTF file. In World Shop. So if you want to connect with the wider Metaverse Makers community, we'll be doing a virtual expo soon, and I know many folks will be at Denver. I can't make it out there, but we'll do something in parallel with booths and presentations and activities for throughout the few weeks. Yeah, I appreciate y'all joining in, and hit me up on Discord or Twitter if you're interested in any of these things and interested in being a contributor. I will pop into the Webaverse Discord and check out if anyone's talking about this, but I also have to jump back into work mode, so apologies if I take a while to respond sometimes. But with that, I will see you all in the metaverse. Cheers, everyone.